With Sherry is a bariatric podcast talking about weight loss surgery. I am not a licensed professional. Any views and or opinions expressed in the show are those of the speakers and do not reflect the bariatric community as a whole. Always reach out to a professional with any medical issues you are experiencing. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy the show.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Unzipped with Sherry, with yours truly. As always, I'm Sherry. Thank you guys for tuning in today. We have been on a hiatus for the last couple of weeks because Sherry was on vacation. I went to a bariatric meetup in Chicago, which was one of the coolest experiences I've ever had, meeting amazing people in the community and being able to hug them in real time. So such an amazing experience. So if any of you who have ever thought about going to any of these bariatric meetups, I highly suggest it. It's a really cool experience. I'm really excited to be back. It's been about 3 weeks since we've been here. And so I wanted to bring back Cindy. If you guys remember, we had Cindy on the show last year, earlier on. And she had sleeve 7.5 years ago. And one thing that I loved about her story is she has had some of the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. And if you guys remember her story from last year, you will know that she's had an incredible transformation. And in fact, she's had 2 incredible transformations. And we're going to get into all of that as well. And a quick side note before I bring her on, thank you guys who've been watching and supporting the show, because while I was in Chicago, I found out that the Unzipped with Sherry podcast was nominated for the Just Be You Awards for Best Bariatric Podcast. And then I was nominated personally for Best Fitness Transformation, which completely blew me away. So I seriously cannot thank you guys enough for the immense love and support that you have given to me. And on that note, we are going to delve into another episode with the amazing Cindy. And Cindy, I hope you're ready because we're about to get unzipped. We all have a story on how we got here, right? So for me, I used to be over 350 pounds until one day I made the single decision that I wanted change. Weight loss surgery has saved my life, and now I am here for you. I want to hear your story. You know, the one that happened during that before and after picture. It's time to unzip. What's your story? Well, hello, my beautiful friend. You're back.
I'm back. I'm better than ever.
Back with a vengeance and better than ever. I freaking love it. How is your day going today?
So far, not too bad. Not too bad. I spent the morning with a friend. We did some mall walking.
Nice.
And I didn't do any shopping except to get some makeup that I needed to get, makeup remover. But,
So I'm thinking that shopping is one of the things that we should not be doing on a regular basis.
I've been told to back off a little bit.
So I had a friend come in to LA for the very first time. She's never been here before.
Mhm.
And so she stayed with me for the last week. And she is obsessed with the Goodwill. And she loves Goodwill shopping. So she wanted to go to an LA Goodwill so that she can do some LA thrift shopping. And I think in the week that she was here, we found 8 separate Goodwills. And she bought shit at every single one of them.
At least it's Goodwill.
It's good. It's a lot more affordable, but she had no way of bringing it back home with her. So we had to give her one of our suitcases that we had to sit on top of it and try to get on. It barely made the weight at the airport, but yeah. So now she has a fuck ton of clothes and my suitcase with her, which is amazing. So first and foremost, thank you so much for coming back. It's been almost a year.
Yeah.
Can you believe that?
Yeah. This is the same background I used last time.
I think it was the same background.
Yes.
I can't believe, because you were one of our very first guests. I remember that. It was one of the it was first 5 I think that we've ever had. So you are one of the reasons that we have a podcast. So thank you first and foremost. So one of the things I wanted to do is, I don't want to go into the entire backstory because obviously, spoiler, we've already been there, done that. So you need to go back and check the last episode that Cindy was on to hear all about her weight loss journey with bariatric and what her experience was like. But because I do think it plays a role in your current day-to-day lifestyle right now, I thought maybe you can just give us a quick recap on your specific experience when you had the gastric sleeve 7.5 years ago.
Sure. Like everybody else, I spent like a year or so in all the pre-op stuff, and I lost, I want to say, 30 pounds, 30 or 40 pounds of that. I don't remember exactly how much, just on the proper diet and exercise, learning how to eat properly again. Um, but then after the surgery, everything went fine for a little bit. I then ended up found out I'm allergic to heparin. It caused me to have a stroke. I had clots everywhere, so I had pulmonary embolism, and I don't know what it's called when the clots are in your kidneys and your liver, but that's where I had those as well. And then I spent a few weeks recovering in the hospital after being in a coma for a few days, and then I spent several months recovering so that I could be able to drive and go back to work. Um, and then then my gallbladder failed. And so I had to deal with that problem because I was still on blood thinners. They didn't want to do surgery. They didn't have a
Right.
choice because I was starving. I was throwing up almost every day, and I was going to the emergency room every few days just to get nutrition, just through IVs.
Yeah, and if I remember correctly, heparin is like a blood thinner, correct?
Yes,
And how soon after the surgery itself did this whole experience happen?
a week, just about 10 days or so.
And I don't know if we talked about this last time. Did they say why it took a week for you to have this reaction to it? Or was it that you had the reaction, but it took a week of like it shutting everything down before it actually came to a crashing halt?
So there are two types of heparin-induced thrombocytopenia. That's what I had. It's called a HIT. The first one takes place, usually see it right away in the surgery, and they can respond to it right away. The other one is it takes 7 to 10 days or so for it to start happening throughout the body, and that's the kind I had. I always have to do things the hard way.
Well, yeah,
So,
you like to go big or go home,
oh
of
yeah,
course. And I guess that makes sense because I remembered when I had the sleeve, you had like the 5 incisions, and I don't remember having stitches, or they might have stitched it on the inside, but I
I don't
had
think I
like
had
this.
stitches either.
Yeah, they gave me like a surgical glue. So I
Hmm.
remembered I had like glue on my incisions, but I do think it was like a week and a half later, maybe even 2 weeks, that every incision site had like these giant welts on them.
Hmm.
Almost, and so they said that I had an allergic reaction to the glue that they used.
Hmm.
And I remember thinking, why did it take that long for this reaction to just come? And so I don't know if it had to do with the healing process or because it seeps in, like, I don't know how it works, but I guess that does make sense that it took a while for you to react to it.
Everybody is different. Everybody is different. Everything is, you know, it could be anything.
Yeah, and then how long after all of this whole experience, and I don't remember we talked about last time, did the gallbladder decide, fuck everybody, I'm out of here?
Um, well, it started failing probably 3 months after all of that, and then I ended up still having to wait another 3 to 4 months before I could have my gallbladder removed because they didn't want to do the surgery. They're still on blood thinners.
Right.
Realized there's no choice, so I went in, and the surgeon brought another surgeon in, somebody who specializes in hematology, and he, I almost bled out in surgery, so I almost died again. And he's like, "You're my problem child." I'm like, well, yeah, I got to do things difficult.
Yeah,
Um, so it was supposed to be an outpatient procedure. Was an overnight procedure, but I'm fine now.
which is good. And
Yeah.
one of the things that I was so blown away by your story is you are literally the epitome of like the last resort, like complicate, like the worst case scenario situations aside
Hmm.
from death itself. Like you were literally knocking on death's door saying, hey, I think I might be at the wrong house. Like I don't know what's going on. And then thank God we're like, nope, it's not your time yet. Come back. But you were literally one of those worst case scenarios that people who are on the fence of having bariatric surgery, this is the kind of stuff that prevents them from having it.
Hmm.
And one of the things that blew me away from your story is I had asked you at the end, like everything that you have gone through, would you do it all over again? And without hesitation, you said
Yep.
that you would. And I
Yep.
completely was blown away by that because, and again, if you guys have not watched the episode that Cindy was on last year, go back and watch it and you hear everything that she had gone through up until this point. And the kind of stuff that you went through is the kind of things that will completely break somebody, and be like, I regret everything. This was not worth it, and can sit and self deprecate on themselves every single day. Because in your case, it's not over. You still have residual issues that came from your experience, which is now almost 8 years later. You're still
Hmm.
having residual issues that affect your day-to-day life.
Yeah.
And so it boggles my mind that you still would do it all over again despite.
Yeah, I might ask them not to use heparin, but other than that, it's
I
a,
mean, maybe
yeah,
that, yeah, maybe
yeah.
put
But
that
only because
on
I'm
the board.
allergic. Only because I'm allergic to it. I think if you're not allergic to it, it's fine. It's a safe drug. So
And it's like you didn't know you were allergic, just
I had
kind of
no
like
idea.
I had gotten, they thought I had appendicitis and they gave me penicillin. I've never had penicillin before. And you find out the hard way you're allergic
Yeah,
to penicillin. And
it's the only way to find out is to be exposed to it.
yeah, which is freaking crazy. So, question number one
Hmm.
is, since you've been here last year,
Hmm.
how have things changed? Or like how, like as far as like the adverse effects from your surgery, what is the day to day like for you right now?
So I typically wake up with the brain splitting migraine. It never goes
Okay.
away. And I'm usually pretty dizzy when I first get up in the morning. I have to take a good 10 or 15 minutes just to get out of bed. But then I'll go downstairs, I'll make some breakfast. Some days it's a bowl of ramen because that's all I can manage to do. Some days it'll be I'll make an omelet or something because I can stand a little bit longer. I eat breakfast and I'm up for about an hour, and then I go back to bed for a little bit so I can reset. And then I go about my day an hour or two later. I have to
And this
plan
is
everything out
every morning?
every morning. Yeah, it's very rare that I'm up for more than 2 hours in the morning.
And how long does it usually take for it to fully dissipate or at least get to a point where it's manageable to go about the day?
Uh, Depends on the day, depends on what I've done the day before. But it usually takes, I'd say, 3 or 4 hours. So I get up at 5 or 6 every morning. So 3 or 4 hours is still 8 or 9 a.m.
Right, it's still early.
Yeah.
But do you have to like, and I'm just curious because I feel like that could be so crippling for so many people. So like first thing in the morning, this is how you're starting your day every day. Like how do you get into the right headspace to be like, I'm still gonna conquer shit today. I'm still gonna go about my day and not let it completely consume you and just want to lay in bed the whole day.
Some days I have to lay in bed the whole day that I just simply cannot function.
Okay.
Um, but other days I'm like, you know what? I have things I have to do. I've planned some things out for the day. I can be miserable or I can choose to go do something that's less miserable. And then sometimes I actually go have fun.
I fucking love that. And is it like, does it come and go throughout the day too?
Hmm. Yeah, depends on what I do. Like when I'm mall walking, I'll do a lap around the mall and I have to stop and sit for a bit. Even though my legs and my hips are fine, the
Hmm.
migraine, if I don't do this, the migraine will flare up. And since I'm the one driving, I can't have a migraine flare up. Other people are depending on me getting them around.
Right.
So, um, and um, and so uh, my brain turns off sometimes when I'm talking.
No, no, that's fine. So now let me ask you: are there certain activities or things that exasperate it more, or is there anything that act like kind of helps relieve it?
So things that make it worse are rapid head movements or going from a laying position to a sitting or
Makes
laying to
sense.
standing. Um, or if I have to have my head down low, so if I have to crouch. Like when I go to physical therapy, we do not do sit to stands. That will just
Okay.
mess me up. Swimming or walking too much, any kind of extraneous exercise, or too long or too much can make it bad. So if I go swimming, I go swimming every other day at most instead of every day. I try not to do exercises back to back days because it'll mess me up for a couple of days. I can be laying in bed for 2 or 3 days if I do it
Wow.
wrong.
And swimming, is that somewhat newer for you? Because I don't remember us talking about it last year.
I was terrified to go swimming last year. I was absolutely terrified. And
Really?
so, yeah. So one, I put on some of the weight, so I'm back up to 300 pounds or so. Trying to lose that. So being a bigger girl is already a little awkward sometimes in the
Yeah.
swimsuits, and being trans, it's terrifying going into the locker room. I don't know how people are going to react. Turns out the YMCA up here, the YMCA,
Hmm.
they actually want me to use the women's locker room. They said, you go
Okay.
to where you're happiest, where you prefer to be. We'll back you. Not one person has complained at all. Nobody has had any issues at all. People have sat and talked to me while I'm in there. I don't like to talk in locker rooms. It's just always been awkward for me.
I don't even like
Uh,
talking in locker
yeah,
rooms.
yeah. And I use the private changing area. It's not like I'm just sitting there naked talking to people, you know.
Right.
But they'll sit out there naked talking to me. Like, okay,
No,
yeah, whatever. Um, but yeah, I can use the showers because they're all private showers at the Y. Nobody cares about what I'm doing.
okay, so you were so terrified of it. What made you make the decision on the first day? Like, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna give it a try.
So when I first started trying to go there, I was incredibly terrified, and I would drive to the Y, and I would have a panic attack in the parking lot, and I'd drive home. I wouldn't get out of the car, and I did that for probably a week or so, and then I got out of the car and I walked into the Y, and then I walked back to my car. I just had to keep pushing myself to do it, knowing that it was going to be okay the whole way through. And then one day, I decided I was going to use the universal locker rooms, the gender neutral ones, the family
Oh,
ones.
okay.
And I was still having a panic attack. Normally, they don't want you on the phones in the locker rooms. However, these are private showers and changing areas because they're for families. And so, what I did was Gail from the beriatric group that
Oh,
we're in,
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
foundation, she said, "Call me when you get there." And so I talked to her the whole time, and she kept me calmer than I was. And then I went swimming for a bit, and I got out, and I had my anxiety attack again, and I called her. But I took pictures of me doing these things, and I shared them, and I posted them like, "Look, I can do this. I'm not going to be terrified all the time. I can do this even if I am terrified." And then it still was difficult, and I would bring friends with me after a
Mhm.
while. And so then we would go into the women's locker room, and I had support when I'm doing that. But now
I
I go by myself now.
I am so fucking proud of you because I vaguely remember you making a post about wanting to go for the very first time and you were
Hmm.
hesitant of it. And so now, how often do you go?
Uh, Typically once or twice a week.
I love, and then so as of now, do you feel like that it's gotten a lot more easier, or do you still struggle each time that you go?
It's gotten easier. I still struggle a couple times. Sometimes I don't go to the Y that I normally go to, and so I'll go to a one up in another city so I can go with a friend. And I
Hmm.
don't know the people up there. In that city, the people up there are a little bit more rude,
Okay,
and so I try not to hold it against the people there because just because there's a lot of rude people doesn't mean everybody I bump into is going to be rude.
right.
I have to remember that. But we go up there and it's okay. It's a better pool, but I don't like walking with people who don't want to go to certain places in the pool, and it
Right.
slows me down. I need to be in the deeper end because I'm 6'2". I can't be in the shallow end of the pool, otherwise my
It
hips
goes
are
up
out of
to
the
your
water.
knees or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, it is funny. Like I born and raised in LA my whole life, and so I just thought that the way that Angelinos act is like how everybody around the country acts, and I
Mhm.
realized that like no, there's a lot of assholes in LA. Like we're a very superficial city. Parts of us are very open and welcoming of everybody, but it's I just assume that everyone's going to be an asshole, and then when they're pleasant and nice, I'm like, oh, that's actually a really nice surprise, and then I can embrace it. So I totally get that. Um, so for the most part, like when it comes to the headaches and everything over the last year, has do you find it that it's progressively moving in the right direction, or has it pretty much been stagnant or about the same for the last year?
It's been, I want to say getting better, but at the same time, it's been stagnant. I don't have as many flare ups,
Okay.
but the migraine hasn't gotten better. I just don't have as many flare ups, and they're not as intense when I get them. But they can be, so they can get pretty bad.
Okay. So
So,
basically, a year later, I'm gonna ask you the same question. Everything that
mhm,
you've been through and gone through,
mhm,
would you do it all over again?
absolutely, without a question, without
Without
a doubt.
hesitation.
Hmm.
That's fucking incredible.
Yeah.
So in the last year, and we're gonna talk about it too. Like you have had two major life transformations in your
Hmm.
life. One of them
Hmm.
obviously is the bariatric surgery, which literally changes everything on the outside, like your physical weight and health benefits. But then three years ago, you made the decision that you wanted to start transitioning to a woman.
Hmm.
And so, one of the questions that I had is because, from what I understand about that process, is obviously you have to go through hormone treatments and medications and stuff like that. How has that process been as far as hindering or helping with the bariatric part of your journey?
It's been interesting. So first, not just because somebody's trans doesn't mean they have to go through that process. They can choose to. They may not be able to afford to. They may not want to. It's not a requirement for anybody. I know you know that, but I want to make sure that
Yeah,
the
of course.
people listening know that every person's going to be different. Um, and so the body adjusts to the different hormones. And so uh, So a lot of people will be on estrogen pills or a
Mhm.
patch because it's consistent hormone levels. I can't do those because of the risk of blood clots for me.
Got it.
And so I have to do the injection. I inject every 10 to 14 days instead of every week or every 2 weeks, depending on how the dosing goes with people. And so I have cycles like everybody else now. Yay! But mine are more frequent.
Yay!
Yay! um, but it's changed my body. It changes my cravings that I have. It changes how my body stores weight on it. It makes it so I want to store weight,
Right.
whether my brain wants to or not. My body goes, "Oh, you have to store weight now because you might have a baby." I'm like, "No, I'm not going to ever have a baby. I'm missing the other very important part. I
There's some
don't
bits
have
and
a
pieces still missing.
yes, I'm missing a uterus. It's never going to happen."
Now, with the hormone, with the treatments that you're on, you said you do it every 2 weeks or so,
Every 10
right?
to 14 days, yeah.
10 to 14 days.
Hmm.
Now, is that the kind of thing where eventually your body like recognizes and absorbs it and adapts to it, or is this going to be like for the rest of your life in perpetuity?
For the rest of my life.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then does with the hormone, because like I know like with women, every month when you have hormones, it
Hmm.
greatly affects, like some people can gain 5 pounds, 6 pounds overnight in the way that
Hmm.
we retain water. Do you have similar experiences with the treatments that you're on as far as how it can either add weight or hinder it?
I do notice when I inject, I put on some weight for the next couple days, but then because I have to inject the estrogen, it fades away. So
Okay.
it's just like just like with you, your estrogen levels will fluctuate. If I was doing pills or a patch, I would have consistent levels, and then I could adapt to that more easily for weight loss. But my body puts on weight and then drops it, and then puts it on and then drops it. So.
Now, for somebody who's dealt with obesity in their life
Mhm.
and like went through this surgery to like lose weight, now that you are in a situation where you're having something that affects your weight loss portion of it, how do you personally start to find balance over, because you're talking about like being your best authentic self in the body that you need to be, but then
Mhm.
also the weight aspect of it and wanting to be the best version of yourself. How do you find balance? Because sometimes the two worlds are going to collide with each other and can prevent the trajectory that you're on.
Well, first I have to decide what do I want out of all of this. What's the most important thing? And being myself is the most important part of all of this.
Yeah.
Um, and then I can focus on the health aspect. Like my diabetes went away, went into remission basically after the surgery. If I go up to a certain weight, my diabetes starts to come back. So I focus on keeping it below that weight. And I know I have to get it lower because as I get older, it's
Right.
going to become a lower and lower threshold. And so I'm working on that. But I need to focus on, I need to be happy with who I am first. Then I can focus on the other physical stuff because that will be easier to do if I'm happy and content with who I am as a person. I'm not fighting
Right.
myself the whole way.
And so, in the last year or so, what would you say are like the biggest roadblocks that you're facing right now with being living your best life in your best self the way that you can?
The biggest roadblocks, um, honestly, the government. uh, there are a lot of people who are doing everything they can to make my life miserable, but I won't let them. I'm not going to let them. I happen to live in an area where I can be who I am and it's safe for me. I still have to
Right.
deal with protesters, and there's going to be a group of protesters at Pride next week who show up with firearms to protest. And they do it every single time. And so I just need to be prepared for that. I fortunately or unfortunately, depending on how you look at it, I have my training to fall back on. And so I can
True.
say, I know where to set up a rally point. I know how to set up a rally point. I know where to be for safety. I know what to look for. I know how to protect my friends that are going to be with me. So,
And one of the things that I loved, I think it was something that you had said, not on the show, but I think you talked about it in post, or maybe it was just you and I, that you've been extremely blessed in the sense that you have not had personally as much backlash or as much hate as other people have had.
right. Yeah.
And so, what is your support system like overall?
It's a lot stronger than I ever expected it to be, which is really good. I have friends who are supportive. I have friends and family who are supportive. I have friends and family who are assertively supportive, and then I have friends and family who are aggressively supportive, and they're willing to
Where it's
step
like to
in.
like just chill, chill.
Yeah. Well, no, I unleash them when I need to. Um, um, so like supportive people are like, hey, we got you. Let's go do something. People who are assertively supportive are like, oh, I love the way that looks on you. Let's go ahead and do this. And they really start helping out, and they stand up for you when things are going, poorly or whatever. And then aggressively supportive people, they step between you and the problem, and they
Right.
say, no, you don't deal with this. I've got the option to deal with it for you. You have enough on your plate.
And then, so for people who are watching at home, if you have any questions for Cindy, one thing that I love about her is that she really is an open book. Obviously, if you have, ask dignified questions, like don't be an asshole or whatever. But one of the things that I love about you is I've talked to people in the community in different phases that they're in, and there's a lot of hesitation that comes with asking questions or having a conversation. And I think within reason, there's this expectation that you're going to be met with ridicule or criticism or hate. And so I think our natural defense mechanism is to be defensive and to kind of build this wall. But the only way that we're going to learn to have acceptance and compassion and understand is by asking questions, obviously within reason. And one thing that I loved about you since I met you is you were open to asking questions. And if people genuinely want to know certain things or what the process is like or like how you're living and just to understand you better or to understand the community better, you've always embraced it with open arms and like
Mm-hmm.
you've never been defensive or aggressive or anything like that. So I commend you for that because I know how hard that is
Mm-hmm.
because we live in a world that's very judgmental, no
But you've
matter
seen
where you
me
are.
you've seen me be assertive in how I address people. Like
Yes.
if I post a picture like in the group and somebody says, "Why are we talking about this?" I'm like, "Well, let me explain." And
Yes.
I just jump right in, and I make sure that people understand that everything that we do is part of our journey, and we can't just say weight loss. We have to look at a holistic approach to
Right.
everything. Everything we put in our mouth, every thought we have, every action we take, it has an impact. So
And then so since you made the decision to start transitioning, one of the biggest things that we deal with just strictly in the bariatric community is our body image. We deal with body dysmorphia. Sometimes it's even reverse body dysmorphia where you don't realize how big you were until you see a picture and then you lose all this weight and you still see the fat person in the reflection for a while. You're kind of like in the very unique form right now because you've had two major transformations. So how does body image play a role in your life as far as like do you deal with body dysmorphia or what is your body image like right now?
So I guess you could say I'm lucky. I have body dysmorphia and dysphoria. So
What's that?
dysphoria is it's an incongruence between your physical body and what you believe you should be seeing for your gender, and the anxiety that comes
Okay.
along with that. So I get to look at myself and go, oh look, I'm fat, and I've got these parts I don't like. Um, but not everybody has dysphoria either. Just because they're trans, they don't have to have dysphoria.
Right.
Um, I happen to have it, and my dysphoria has changed over time too. So, like for example, I hate the fact that I grow facial hair, and if I don't keep it shaved down, I start to freak out. So, but I'm doing electrolysis for that. But when I look at other parts of my body, I'm like, I've got breasts now. Before I had maybe an A cup. I'm up to a D. In 3 years, I have a
Are
D
you
cup.
really?
I'm a D. Oh yeah,
Holy shit.
yeah, and they're still technically growing. They could take 6 or 7 years to keep growing. I don't need
Is,
them to be much bigger, but
is that strictly from like the medication you're on or did you have
it's
implants?
no implants. That's only from the estrogen.
Okay, there's a lot of women that be fucking pissed off at you right now that you're like
I
walking
know,
around with these right
I
now.
know, I know. You know what else is going to piss them off? I don't have to shave my legs. I don't grow leg hair right
Fuck
now.
you.
Yeah, they're smooth.
Wait, is that because you had like the what is it electrolysis
I
or
haven't done
whatever?
electrolysis on my legs at all.
That's just natural.
Yeah, I haven't shaved my legs since I started taking estrogen.
Oh
Yeah,
fuck you so hard.
yeah,
I mean, obviously not really. I
yeah,
fucking love you.
yeah.
Um, wow. So has there? I don't know how I want to ask this.
Ask.
I can ask whatever the fuck I want because I
Yeah.
know that you'll just tell me whether or not you're going to answer it.
Yeah.
So when it comes to like your body image right now, I mean,
Mhm.
besides the facial hair and everything, and
Mhm.
I know that you had said that you've gained some weight, which the weight that you've gained, is that because of the hormones and everything, or is it other factors too?
The hormones played a role, and I got complacent. So,
Okay.
and at one point when I first started doing the transition, because of the hormone changes in my body, it threw my brain completely off,
Yeah.
and I was hitting depression and anxiety and all this other stuff. It turns out the body isn't like its hormones being adjusted that it's been used to for 48
No,
years. So
not so much.
no,
It's a little
so
stubborn.
yeah, and it's just like when a woman goes through menopause, they start to have serious mood swings. It's the same thing with me. And so I started eating like crap, and I wasn't going out and doing things. And then COVID hit, and I couldn't go do the things I wanted to go do.
Right.
So
And then, so at what point did you decide, okay, I understand I have all these roadblocks or whatever, but something needs to change? And so, what was the decision for you to kind of get back on track? And I guess two-parter. And then, what are you doing now to kind of find balance and get yourself back to where you were?
I had to get back on insulin. I didn't like that.
Really?
Yeah, my diabetes put me back onto insulin for a little bit, and I was back taking the metformin and the glimepiride. Like, I don't want to keep taking more pills. I have enough pills I have to take. And
Right.
so I started losing the weight, and now I'm not on anything. I'm not on. I'm taking Ozempic to help with cravings and stuff, but I'm not taking any more diabetic medications. They took me off. They said, "This is you don't need to be on this. It's actually bad to be on it if you don't need to be on it." So
Okay, good. So, at least the metformin and everything you're not on anymore.
right, right.
Okay, so I have to ask a question. It's off topic. So, the minute you said Ozempic, I literally just heard the jingle in my head right now.
Mm-hmm.
What is Ozempic?
Ozempic, it's primarily a diabetes medication. It's an
Okay.
injectable medication, but it's been found to also promote weight loss because it reduces your cravings. So,
Oh,
so it helps
okay.
with that too, which is why it's so good for diabetics. Because it helps regulate their insulin levels, but it also reduces their cravings.
Now I'm curious. Maybe you probably don't know the answer to this, but I've heard that there's like certain medications that were specifically for diabetes or for like ADHD or whatever.
Mhm.
That now a lot of people are prescribing them for weight loss, and that it's causing an issue with the people who genuinely need it. Is
Yes.
that happening too?
Yes, Ozempic is one of those drugs, and there's a couple other ones. Like I think the other one's Wegovy is another one.
Okay.
Um, but I don't have a problem getting it. I just can't get it. I was getting a 3 month supply, uh, but VA gets the priority on medications, which is really good. So I can get a 1 month supply at a time.
Okay, which is, I mean, it's
Yeah,
better than nothing, I guess. Because
yeah,
I there are certain medications that my mom was on for her entire life, and
hmm,
then she couldn't have access to it anymore. She couldn't even fill a prescription, and then after a while, her body had to go through withdrawals. And I think as a result, now she's not on certain medications,
hmm,
which is good for her. But that's a terrible way to have to like wean off of something, is just not being able to have it accessible.
yeah. The so with like Ozempic and the Wegovy and those drugs there, the problem they're running into is they just couldn't produce enough of them for everybody. With a lot of the ADHD medications, those are what they call Category 2 or Schedule 2 drugs.
Mhm.
And there is a maximum limit that can be produced annually. And a lot of people are getting prescribed these drugs. Many of them need it, not everybody needs it. And it causes a problem when people
Yeah,
who don't need it are getting prescribed the medications because those who do need it can't have access to it. And there's no recourse. You can't, it's not like you can just go to another pharmacy. If one pharmacy's out, the other
all of
pharmacy
them
is
are
going
going
to
to be
be
out.
out soon. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and then when it comes back to delivering them, I'm a pharmacy technician, so I have a lot of extra behind the scenes information.
Okay.
Um, and so when things start coming back, they prioritize based on who was getting more orders than somebody else of the same drug. So,
Interesting. Yeah, Tanya
yeah,
wrote in that her husband is on it, and it's helped him tremendously, which is
yeah,
amazing.
it's good. And it's interesting because it can cause nausea until you get used to it. But most people don't have any problems. And then redness. But yeah, yeah. Once you get used past the nausea, you're okay.
Well, I figured like you're just used to having everything under the sun, so what's a little nausea to add on
Yeah,
top of everything
I
else
have a
too?
bad ankle. I got a bad head. I got
Easy.
nausea. Yeah, I got all my arms. I got all four of my arms. No, wait, all two of my arms. Yeah.
If I can live you. Um, I already asked that question. So now that we're kind of in a place with you where you're feeling more inside who you are, who you want to be, the
Mhm.
direction that you're going,
Mhm.
um, now and in the last year, what I've loved seeing you on social media is I do see you starting to do things to really embrace your personal femininity and living life as a woman.
Mhm.
And one of the things that I loved is you had like this incredible NSV that I haven't even had yet. It's still on my to-do list or whatever. And you had a photo shoot.
I did.
So
I
tell
did.
tell us about it.
So I decided I was going to do a boudoir shoot, and back in January, I was asking people. Well, I've been talking about it for about a year, I guess, but um, in January, I started really thinking about it, and I asked people in the bariatric group, "Hey, do you think I should do this?" And a bunch of people said yes. I asked people on my page, my personal page, and they said, "Yeah, you should do it." And then I had a few people send me personal messages saying, "No, you shouldn't do that." Why shouldn't I do that? Well, because
Really?
you're trans. Really? Fuck you. That's the reason I'm doing it. Right there. You just told me no for the stupidest reason ever, and I'm doing it.
I'm telling
So,
you, the biggest motivator for me is to tell me I
mhm,
can't do something. Now
yeah,
that's all I'm going to think about until I prove you wrong.
yeah. I mean, if they tell me not to go streaking in Alabama, I can agree with that. That's not a safe place for me to be streaking at.
But if you tell me I can't do it for some
Right?
reason, you're
Right.
going to see me naked walking down the streets of Alabama. I'm just saying.
Just let me know when.
I'm not going to do it by myself. I'll make sure you're with me.
Together. Yes.
So, okay. So, what was the experience like for you?
So I talked to the photographer ahead of time. Normally, they don't like extra people to be with them. It's usually just the photographer
It's supposed to be more
and the model.
intimate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But because of my dysphoria, I talked to her and I said, "Hey, I get really bad dysphoria. I would like to bring my best friend with me. She helps keep me calm in every situation." And she said, "Yeah, absolutely, we can do that for you." And so I then had my panic attacks for the next 4 months
Of course.
because I have to do that. And then we get down there, and it's right. Her studio is right across the street from where the Mariners play at Lumen Field in Seattle,
Oh,
like
okay.
literally across the street. And so the building was 1907. There's not an elevator. I had to walk up 3 flights to get to this.
Nope.
The first, she has 2 studios. So the first one was on the third floor. Next one's on the fourth floor. It's supposed to be 2 hours of hair and makeup, and then 2 hours of photography. We did the 2 hours of hair and makeup, and then we did 4 hours of photography. Yeah,
Wow.
we were having so much fun. I was exhausted though. I was so tired.
Yeah, but
So
that's so worth it. Like,
yeah.
when you came out in the hair and makeup and the first outfit for the photos, like,
Mhm.
what immediate thoughts go through your mind?
Um, so interesting. You don't come out in that stuff. There's no place to change. I had stripped naked in front of my best friend
Oh,
I had never been naked in front of before, and in front of a photographer I just met that day in person, which is a whole different experience because I was not expecting to be naked in front of people
right.
because I've got parts I don't want to show the world.
Well, of
So,
course.
I mean, a lot of people don't want to, but it's even more awkward for me. But the photographer is also does erotic photography, so she's like it's body parts. I'm used to taking pictures of them. I do it every day. So,
And it helps when they make it seem so natural.
hmm
It definitely, like, when they treat it like it's not a big deal, then
hmm
eventually, like, as much as I would be inside my head, it would make me feel better that it would be a lot easier to
yeah.
do it, I guess.
And then once I put on the outfit, I was like, oh god, I feel so good in being this. So, yeah, it felt really good. My friend helped me, Sunny helped me get into the outfits because you have to have an engineering degree to figure out some of these bits of lingerie.
Agreed. Yes.
So, um, and Sunny was not phased at all by my body, and I knew she was body positive, but I never experienced it on this level. So it took me off. I was caught off guard a little bit, but the photography was it was so good. I enjoyed every second I was there. I even had a couple moments of anxiety because I was getting tired,
Right.
but she worked around my disability. Like I can't stand with my eyes closed for more than a few seconds because I get too dizzy and I fall over. That's from the migraine. So
Right. And was it one of the first times that you just felt truly beautiful?
I didn't until 2 weeks later when I got the pictures.
Really?
Yes. Yeah.
So
Um,
in the moment, was it that you were just so inside your head?
I was enjoying it. She was making me feel comfortable. I was happy, but I didn't leave feeling beautiful.
Okay.
Um, And in fact, she said, in a couple weeks, we're going to come back. You're going to look at the pictures. We're going to go over them. You're going to tell me which ones you like, which ones you don't. And I said, yeah, just so you know, you don't usually get overly excited about things like that. I'll go, yeah, I like that. Yeah, I don't like that, whatever. And she goes, oh, okay. And then I get there, and that's not what happened at all. I was like, oh, I love that. Oh, I can't stand that. Oh, I love this. I got really excited. And then one of the pictures I saw, I was like, that's the best picture I've ever seen of me. And she goes, I haven't edited that yet. And I started crying.
Oh my God, you literally just like the hair that you don't grow is on my arm right now, and it's standing up right now. I just fucking love that so much. And that's, I am like a lot of us, we're so wildly insecure. And I think insecurity is probably the number one factor why I have not done it myself yet.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that, because when you do like a boudoir shoot or any kind of a photo shoot, you're waiting for the airbrush. You're waiting for it to highlight and accentuate in certain ways. So to be able to see a photograph that is your true, authentic, unfiltered self and just completely be submersed in the beauty of that, I'm not an emotional person. I would probably cry too.
I fell in love with the person that I saw finally. It was interesting. So she had done a lot of editing. She did editing on a lot of photos, not a lot of editing on the photo. She doesn't believe in editing things. But I have a scar. I don't know how well you can see, but I have a scar right here.
I can't really see it too much.
Right, goes right down here. Anyway,
a little indentation.
Yeah, I got that when I was 5 years old from a German Shepherd. And she thought that it was a weird thing that was on the lens or from how I was positioned a few points. So she's editing it out of all the pictures. She goes, I don't know what the hell that is. Like, it's a scar. Can I get that back? That's part of me. So she put that back. So you want to see a couple of pictures?
Yeah. Do you have some?
Yeah. This picture right here is the one that I fell in love with.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. That's the one that's completely unedited. And then there's this one. I don't know how well you can see that.
I think it's upside down. Oh, I love that though.
It's supposed to be upside down.
Oh, I think your body's covering the head, but that's fine.
I love it. I don't know.
No, you're fine. I don't want you to fall off the chair.
And then this one right here, it's a little harder to see, but so that one there, when Sunny saw it, because she was with me when we went over the pictures too.
I love it, like the profile, right there too.
When Sunny saw that, she literally jumped off the couch. She goes, oh my God, that's the best picture I've ever seen of you. So I'm getting that as an acrylic, and I'm getting the one picture that my favorite as a print for the wall, and I have another one in black and white I'm going to get as a print for the wall as well.
I absolutely love that. So were you nervous walking in, like when it came, like, because I don't think, do they show you the pictures during the photo shoot, or do you have to wait like 2 to 3 weeks before you see anything? I had to wait 2 to 3
weeks. She showed a couple pictures. And they were good pictures, but it just she didn't want to show me anything because she wanted to make sure she get a chance to go through and get rid of the pictures that didn't come out well, because sometimes lighting isn't quite right. She's using the lighting from outside, I
feel like I would be riddled with anxiety for those 2 or 3 weeks.
I wasn't, because I thought, I'm not going to get most of them anyway. And then I got there and my anxiety started to peak because I'm like, okay, this is real. This is the right stuff.
So you had anxiety the day of going in there. The day of,
yeah.
But then you walked out with a totally different attitude.
Yep. And that has totally changed my life. Since then, I've been going to the pool by myself more often. I've been dating. I've just been doing things I couldn't do before. I couldn't.
All because of that photo shoot?
And my confidence level has skyrocketed. I had some transphobes on Facebook literally target me, but come after me. And they link to my profile picture because that's a public picture.
Right.
And they put it in a group that they're in so they could go ahead and try to target me and my friends and family who had commented on it. And I looked at that and I was like, and it was the picture that Sunny really loved, my second favorite picture. Mm-hmm. That was the picture I had in my profile picture. I'm like, really? You're going to use that picture to attack me over? The best picture that I've ever shared with anybody? Yeah, go home and fap to that. I don't care. But then I decided I was going to mobilize and get that page taken down. And so I told my friends about it, and I'm in a veterans group, and I mentioned to them what's going on, and they swarmed the page, and they reported it to Facebook and got it and its secondary page taken down. and not for harassment. It turns out for sexual exploitation, which means the person who created that page could be off of Facebook because sexual exploitation is
Wow.
much different than harassment.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, just don't fuck with a vet because we will mobilize. We always have each other's backs.
And well, you know, I always have your back too.
Oh yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah.
I love that something that was so terrifying at the thought of doing
Hmm.
became something that was like the most empowering for you moving forward.
Yeah. It was an incredible experience. I highly recommend anybody who can afford it do it. If you can't afford it, find somebody who's good with pictures and get a couple anyway.
Yeah.
So
I
find
need
a
to do
way.
it. I feel like it would be very empowering, and I feel like in a way it would be so freeing to get out of your comfort zone and do something that you would have never dreamed. And I think it helps if you have something tangible, you know, as a result of that activity or whatever
Mhm.
that I'm so scared.
I'm getting a
But you
book.
did
I'm
it.
getting an 8x8 or a 10x10 book. I forget which one I ordered of 40 pictures that I selected. And then what's cool is what she does, and I'm sure other photographers do this as well. When you go in to pick up the stuff,
Hmm.
they videotape it. They record it. They record all the
Really?
emotions. Yeah, and so they'll have like I've seen videos of people bring in their boyfriend or their husband or whatever, and their husband or boyfriend will start crying over the pictures. Yeah,
Okay, I think you're convincing me that I need to try it. I just need to do it.
you should do it.
All
The
right.
worst that'll happen is you're going to feel great about yourself.
No, the worst that is going to happen is that I look like a haggard old lady and
It can't
sagged
happen.
everywhere.
Can't happen. Can't happen. You're not a haggard old lady. Besides, if you go in with the mindset, the worst that can happen is I'm going to feel good about myself. That's the worst that can happen.
Okay, I like how you're schooling me on mindset right now and you're throwing that shit right back in my face. Touche. Touche. Um, so the other thing that you mentioned, well, actually, I want to go back because this is an interesting topic that I'm starting to ask with people who are on the show. Is because we live in such a world of social media, and you know how people are these keyboard warriors. You know,
Hmm.
it's a much different world than being face to face with people. In your opinion, because you're not on a lot of different social media apps, but I know that you are active on Facebook,
Very active on Facebook. Yeah.
do you find that social media in your life, do you think it's more helpful or do you think it hinders like your journey overall in life?
Can I say yes? Because I mean, there's good and bad that goes along with it. I've been finding that if I allow the negativity on there to affect me, then it's going to pull me back.
Yeah.
But in that negativity, what I find is I find other people who are struggling, and I work with them to help them find the positive on things. So I've had some friends who they'll post a picture of themselves. If I hate this picture, I'm like, well, what do you like about the picture? What do you mean? Pick something you like about the picture. I don't care if it's your left earlobe. Pick something that you like about the picture and say it. Don't say anything negative about the picture anymore.
I
And
like
I
that.
get them to start saying the positive things. And the negative things are still there. They don't go away, but you're focused on the good instead of the bad. And then you can worry about changing the stuff that you want to change later. But if you only see the negative, that's all you're ever going to be focused on.
Right. And
So,
that's what and I do think a lot of people struggle with is like, and I've seen your posts, like you post and you
mhm,
get a lot of amazing feedback and you do have a lot of support. And like you can have a
mhm,
hundred comments to say you are beautiful and you get one ass hat that says some kind of smart ass comment or whatever.
mhm,
And our natural instinct is to fixate on the one negative asshole and which negates all of the positive messages that we get. And I
yeah,
think that it sucks, but it's just it's unfortunate because criticism and compliments are so widely available in a split second from strangers across the world. You know, it's like where before when you have like your own little insecurities, you might get somebody on the street who says something, you know, aggressive or mean to you or says something or like puts you down. But it's few and far between. But the minute you're on social media, you are literally in this cesspool of billions of people that think they have the right to dictate how you should look, how you should be, how you should act.
mhm,
And we're so easy to judge people based on their personalities or their views or their opinions. And I feel that for a lot of people, it's very hindering if you're not strong enough to accept the criticism. But I do like that your attitude about it is to, whatever negative you can, you're going to try to use it as a learning opportunity, because you know that you're not the only one who's been on the receiving end of that. You know that there's other people that have done it. So I love that you're able to try to use your negative experience in the hopes that you're going to help somebody else who's maybe not as strong-willed in that moment when it happens.
Yeah, and I should say I've been in therapy for 4 years, intense therapy with the VA. So this wasn't an overnight process at all for me. I used to really, I don't know if you remember in the bariatric group, how negative I could be about myself about
Mm-hmm.
things. Um, and so through very intense therapy, going to 2 groups a week, and my therapist once a month, and my
Yeah.
psychiatrist every 3 months, I've really focused on things. I've done every group the VA has at least twice, and I take notes and I use the books and I go through the process. I put in the work.
Yeah. And I can tell you the work definitely shows, because if people go back now and watch your first appearance on the
Hmm.
show, your demeanor is a lot different. It's a lot more brighter. It's a lot more positive. Like, your head is up, and I'm not saying that you're looking down the entire
Right.
time, but you can see, like, I can see a genuine difference since last year. And it's almost like you can see this entire transformation from the inside out kind of come out of you.
Hmm.
I don't know, I'm kind of proud of you.
I'm kind of proud of me too. I don't normally say that, but I'm proud of me too.
I
Thank
think you
you.
should be fucking proud of you, because I'm fucking proud of you. So one of the things that you mentioned is, because of that boudoir shoot, it has motivated you to want to attempt the dating world, which I give you
Hmm.
mad kudos for, because even in a strictly straight world, the dating world of today fucking sucks.
Hmm. Yeah, it's a challenge. I've had to add some things to my profile to start filtering out the horrible people. I don't
Hmm.
filter them all out, of course. Nobody can. But so I start off all my profiles now say I'm a trans woman who is looking for blah 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 blah. So that right there will get rid of anybody who doesn't want to date a trans woman for whatever their reason, whether
Right,
they're transphobic or they want somebody that they can produce children with, whatever their reasons. I don't have to deal with it. They can
right.
go
Just
find
filter it
somebody
out.
else. Yep, and they don't have to worry about spreading hate. There's also, if I were to meet somebody and they didn't know, it could put me in danger. It
Right.
doesn't matter if the law's on my side. The law doesn't stop a fist or a knife or a gun. So,
Yeah.
so I have to keep that in mind. Um, but the other problem that brings is now people are like, oh, a bucket list. Like, no, I'm not your bucket list. I'm not going to do that. And so it brings out some interesting people.
I
And some
think
people
that
don't read profiles either.
No, and I think that sucks too, because I remember being in my 20s and I was overweight and I was obese, and you
Hmm.
were a bucket list. They wanted
Yep.
somebody who had extra weight, and it wasn't about
Hmm.
because they liked you as a person, is that they wanted to knock something off their list.
Hmm.
Um, People can be
Yep.
assholes.
Yep. So in all my profiles now, I put a thing at the very end, and it just says, if you message me, tell me about the last movie you saw, whether you liked it or not. Just tell me about it.
Ah,
This way, I know that they've read my profile. If
so
they
you
don't
put it at the
respond,
very bottom.
at the very bottom. This way, I know they've read things. And if they don't respond with that, then I don't respond to them. There's a few times I
That's
made
smart.
exceptions. Like some people will, I can tell they read my profile because they'll mention things in my profile, but they
Yeah.
don't talk about a movie. Fine, it still means they read it, and that's what the important part is. But somebody told me I should do that, and that's how they filter things out, and it works fairly well.
No, I think that's really smart, because number one, you're going to get a lot of, regardless of your situation or your
Mhm.
orientation, there's a lot of assholes that are on,
Yep.
those dating apps. I love the idea of kind of filtering it, because you know that if they made it to the end, that means that there's at least a genuine interest. Now, they might still be an asshole after all of
Hmm.
that, but instead of having 100 people messaging you, if it narrows down the pool a little bit more,
Hmm.
that's smart.
Yeah, I still get assholes. I still get people who didn't read things. I still get people
Yeah.
who did read it, and now they definitely want me on their bucket list. And nope, I'm not a notch in your bedpost. I'm not on your bucket list. It's not going to happen. Don't even try. And I've had people say, "Hey, I'm looking to date a crossdresser or a trainee. Cool, keep looking."
Yeah, that's not me.
Yeah, yeah. I want to date a she-male. No, sorry, that's not me.
Yeah,
No,
no.
I'm a woman. I may be a trans woman, but I'm still a woman. If you're looking for that, what you want is a sex worker, and that's fine. Go find one.
And if that's your
Yeah,
thing, nobody's
yeah,
judging you.
yeah. I'm only judging them because of how they speak to people, not on who they're sleeping
Right.
with. Um, and so it's helped quite a bit, you know. And I've met some really creepy people online, and I filter them out quickly before I meet them in person. I have a small group of 6 people, I think it is, 6 or 7 people, that they know where I'm going to be at. They know who I'm going to be with, where I'm going to be, what time I'm going to be there,
Oh,
what time
yeah.
I'm going to leave. I send them a picture of him. I do all this stuff, and I've had people tell me that it's not right. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to be
It
safe.
doesn't matter.
I'm going to be safe.
Yeah.
So,
Even if I have like a business meeting out here, if the person's a man or something like that, if my husband's never met him before, he's like, send
mhm,
me the address of where you're going to be, what time
yeah.
you're going to be there. And if I call you, you're going to answer, you're going to drop what you're doing, you're going to answer the phone so that I know
Mhm,
it's okay. And I
yeah.
think there's nothing wrong with that. And if anybody
Mhm,
questions that, that's not somebody that I would want to be with anyway.
yeah. I don't tell any of the guys I'm going out with that I do this,
No.
because I want them to be their genuine self. I don't want them on their best behavior. I want them on their regular behavior,
Yeah.
and that's important to me. And I've had one guy. He actually, it was funny. He said, "So just make sure you let everybody know where you're going to be at," and and he told me to do everything that I was already doing. Like, I was already doing that. Don't worry about it, man. So,
Good for you. So, okay, I can't believe that we're almost done already. It's almost an
okay,
hour.
wow.
So I don't know. I like last time I loved it that I blindsided you and you came out with like this like literary gold. So I'm like trying to think of like how can I blindside you today and see what comes out of you because most of us have the questions ahead of time, so at least you can
Mhm,
kind of prepare like what we're gonna do. Um, but for somebody who's watching this right now or is watching this later, and whether they're in the LGBTQ community or not, or in the bariatric community or not, if somebody's watching this right now and they are not happy in their own skin, whether it's how they look or how they feel or the person that they are, what is some advice that you can give them to help them jumpstart the decision to make changes?
um, to jumpstart it, you just have to start. You have to make that decision. You're going to do it, and I would go down to this is in CBT, the cognitive behavioral therapy called Catch Challenge Change. I found this helps me a whole lot. If I have a thought that is creating if I have an automatic thought, they call them, uh, that's giving me an emotion I don't want, there's no such thing as a negative emotion. So I don't say that at all. If it gives me an emotion I don't want, I catch the thought, I challenge the thought. Is this true? How true is this? And then I change the
Oh,
thought to make it more true. I don't, to make it more accurate, I should say. So I don't turn it into a positive because some things just suck. If your
right,
mom dies, that sucks. You don't get to turn
right.
that in, you can't turn it into a positive. When my mom died a few years ago, we didn't have a connection. I didn't really know her very well. And I turned it into a reality thing. It's like she's not in pain anymore. She's not suffering from the encephalopathy that she had. She's no longer dealing with her drug addiction or alcohol addiction. She's finally at peace. And so it doesn't change the fact that it still hurts, but I'm
Right,
able to deal with it in a different light because the reality is she died and she's not suffering anymore.
right.
So,
And I love that because then it averts your mind to not focus on the negative, which the negative thoughts is what weighs us down
mhm,
and can bury us into depression and
right.
anxiety and stuff. And you're saying,
Mhm,
no, this situation, it sucks and it's bad and
mhm,
it doesn't mean it's ever going that specific situation is never going to get better,
right.
but you can choose in how you're going to let it affect you,
Right.
and that you can still find, like you said, not necessarily positive, but you can sense an alternate way of looking at it
Right.
so that it's not crippling for you tomorrow, like trying to move forward.
Right. So the way I do that with my body image is like I was telling you before, I find the good things I want to say about what I see in the picture. Do I like the fact that I have extra skin or that I'm kind of blobby in some areas? No, I don't. But I finally have the D cups that I've been hoping for my entire life. My skin is softer. I'm I'm standing taller. I'm happier with who I am and where I'm at. I've got those boudoir pictures to focus on that just are gorgeous pictures. I have a great smile. I've got all these things going
Yeah.
for me. I could focus on the good things or I could focus on the negative things. which one do I want to focus on? Where do I want to put my energy? I only have so much energy for the day.
I think that's an amazing way to even finish the episode too. But the last thing I do want to ask you is I see such a night and day difference from when you were on last year to when you're on today that
Mhm.
obviously we're going to have you on again next year because that's just going to have to happen now. But I'm just curious, like,
Next year, I might have my bottom surgery by then.
so that's going to be a whole nother subject that
Yes,
we'll have to get into. But what is something that you are looking forward to in the next year that's just going to elevate you to the next level?
bottom surgery.
You think
That's what I'm
so?
looking for. Yeah, that's the big thing right now. Yeah, definitely need to
Um,
get that changed.
so when the time comes, how
Hmm.
comfortable are you talking about that? Or is it something that you would want to talk about publicly?
I'll talk about it. I am an open book. People, I think people do need to learn these things from somebody who is willing to talk about them.
Mhm.
Not everybody has the spoons to talk about it. Not
Right.
everybody has the knowledge to talk about it. Not everybody knows how to talk about it. Just because somebody has the knowledge of what they went through doesn't mean they know how to explain it so other people can
Right.
understand it.
And that's one of the
Yeah.
most intimate things that you can even have a discussion on the table. So it
Hmm.
is completely understandable that the vast majority of people would
Hmm.
not even want to touch it with a 10-foot pole because number one, it's nobody's first of all, it's nobody's fucking business.
Right.
But I do know that people who are either considering doing it or on the fence about doing it for themselves, I'm sure there's a
Hmm.
million questions that they would love to talk to somebody who's been through it. So like obviously you know me, I would never push anybody to talk about something, but you and I were talking right before the show that one thing that I would be fascinated to talk about you when the time comes is strictly the mental component that comes with that because a part of you is leaving like it's almost
Hmm.
like a body part, it's a death in the family or it's something that's been a part of you your entire life. So I would love on a psychological level to explore that and like the kind of thoughts that go through your mind and how you navigate yourself through that grieving process like when the time comes.
I don't think I'm going to grieve.
You don't
I'm
think
so excited.
so?
Nope. I don't want it anymore. I hate it. I don't like the fact that I have it. It's time to go.
Like you don't, but even though it represents a vast
It represents
over 40
somebody that I
years of
used to be,
right.
not who I am now.
Interesting. Like
So
that's just it's fat.
yeah,
Okay, we're gonna get all into that next time. For those of you who've been watching, if you're watching this at a later time, if there's questions that you have for Cindy, because obviously she's going to be coming back again, um, you can always message me at info@sherryarcuria.com. You can go to the website sherryarcuria.com as well. And if there's anything that you want to know, or if there's topics that you want to like ask about next time, because I can't think of everything, I can't think of every single question that it needs to get asked. Definitely send us a message. And Cindy, seriously, I can't thank you enough. Like every time you come, like you are such a delight. And I do hope, I'm just going to assume you're going to come back.
I'll be back.
Good answer. I like it. So on that note, we will see you guys next week. Thank you so much for tuning in. And I hope you have an amazing rest of your week and do something today that will better yourself for tomorrow.